we're all born atheist, you know, and then that gets changed or enhanced. I mean, there shouldn't even be a word for atheism. It shouldn't exist. Shouldn't need it. There's not a word for not believing in fairies, you know? And if people didn't keep inventing these weird, impossible deities, we wouldn't have to go around denying them. What's up with that?
Well, if you're a believer in God, if you're a Christian, as many tens of millions in America are, you could see you as poking fun at their religion.
Not at all. How many people thank God every time they say thank God? I don't get offended. Do I?
But you must be aware that a lot of people in America would potentially find that offensive.
What, because I'm saying I don't believe in God?
Yeah, because you're kind of mocking them, you know.
No, I'm not. I'm not mocking them. People's beliefs aren't my concern at all. I certainly don't differentiate between religions either. I look at all religions the same. Unlike religious people, I look at all religions equally.
You were religious till you were about 8 years old, is that right?
Yeah, I was brought up a Christian, yeah.
And what happened to change your mind then?
I used to go to Sunday school all the time. I believed in... Well, you got to realise that when you're a working class kid, I came from a very poor working class background. My dad was a labourer, my mum was a housewife. I lived in a poor estate, over here, like the projects. Right? And to a working class mum who, her hope isn't that you become a doctor or a lawyer or an international comedian, it's that you don't die in a barroom fight. And they think the best way to do that is to take on Christian values, which preach immorality, but they haven't got the monopoly on good. This is my point. I'm not a Christian, but I live my life in a good way. And some people say, well, who says what's good is? Well, do you know what? I do. I'm good to people because it's the way I want to be treated. And I don't believe I'll be rewarded in heaven, but I do believe...
What do you think will happen to you?
I'll be rewarded now.
But when you die, what do you think happens?
People who liked me or remember me.
Are you a spiritual person, do you think?
Well, not in that sense, but I get a funny feeling when I see a friend or a mountain or an animal. It fills me with joy. My first love is science and nature, but it's explainable. And just because I don't think that I'm going to go to heaven, I don't think my life's worthless. I don't think...
It's not really that. I always think with atheists, because I do believe, and I was brought up a Catholic and remain so.
Sure.
But, I think everyone's entitled to their own beliefs,
absolutely,
whatever they may be. The problem for atheists, it must be so doom and gloom. When you get to like 70, 80 to think, well, hang on, that's it.
Oh, of course.
That's the end of everything.
That's right, yeah.
So you must fear death 10 times more than Christians, don't you?
Why? I don't believe there's anything after.
Because it's the end.
But you're saying you believe because the alternative is too terrible.
That's not why I believe, but certainly it's a very comforting thought to think that I don't think it all ends in the box under the ground.
But I can't help what I believe any more than you can. And it's up to you what you believe in. And this thing about not believing in God, there are 2,780 odd gods. And so if you're a Christian, you believe in one of them and you don't believe in all the others. I think religion's greatest trick wasn't convincing some people that there was a God who was all-powerful. It was convincing everyone else that you couldn't ridicule the idea. It's when you get them. I think there'd be more atheists and less faithful if you weren't allowed to teach anything, you weren't allowed to mention any gods or any beliefs or atheism, right, until they were 20. I think we'd see a different pattern. The human brain, when it's young, is a sponge. It has to be. It has to take in all the information. It has to trust its parents, its elders, to survive. Without question, don't touch the fire. Why not? Don't go near the wolf. Don't touch that spider with a red bit. Don't touch that. Why not? Just don't. There is a God. What? There is a God. And if you're bad, you go to hell. Okay? And if that's constantly confirmed, like all the other things, wolves eat you, black widows kill you, fires burn you, if it's given that same level of credence and truth, you're never going to get over it. It's going to be a lot harder to undo that. I think the myths came up, maybe, often as a stopgap to knowledge until we find out more. The earth is flat. No, we've proved now. Okay, the earth's not flat. We were wrong. Okay. But that's not personal. You don't take that personally. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect your afterlife, And so they often want to hold on to that, right? But only because of the way they've been conditioned. We know it's fun to tell children there's a Santa Claus and there's fairies at the bottom of the garden and all these cute things. It's cute till they're 7 or 8. If they're 34, it's a bit embarrassing socially. This is my son. What's he doing? He's looking for fairies. Is he? Okay, we better leave. If you're born in India, you're probably a Hindu. If you're born in America, you're probably a Christian. Born in Pakistan, probably a Muslim. Where did the universe come from? And if they say, well, he's always been around, well, let's just say the universe has then. Let's just cut out the middleman. It saves time.
Ricky is right that morality doesn't belong to Christianity alone. History shows countless moral systems before the Bible. The Code of Hammurabi, written in Babylon almost 1,000 years before Moses, already outlawed murder and theft. Ancient Egyptian texts like the Book of the Dead taught judgment for how you treated others. Science also proves morality comes from human empathy. Brain scans show areas like the prefrontal cortex and mirror neurons drive compassion and fairness, not divine command. He also makes a strong point about where you're born shaping your religion. Pew Research confirms that nearly all people inherit their parents' faith, meaning a child in India grows up Hindu, in Pakistan Muslim, and in the US Christian. That proves faith is geography, not truth. Even the Bible admits this inconsistency. Exodus 25 says, God punishes children for the sins of the parents, which sounds more like cultural inheritance than free belief. And the question of who made God remains unanswered. Christian theology claims God is eternal, but if you allow that, you can also accept the universe as eternal. Modern cosmology even explores quantum models where the universe doesn't need a creator. The Big Bang Theory, supported by cosmic background radiation and redshift data, explains the beginning of space and time without invoking a deity.
We're all born atheist, and then that gets changed or enhanced. I mean, there shouldn't even be a word for atheism. It shouldn't exist. Shouldn't need it. There's not a word for not believing in fairies. And if people didn't keep inventing these weird, impossible deities, we wouldn't have to go around denying them. It's a matter of degrees. If you go around feeling good because whatever life throws at you, it'll all be okay in heaven, that's great. Doesn't affect anyone. Fine. If you pray that you'll do well at work and then you try hard and do well at work and you believe it was the praying, fine. We know it wasn't. We know the praying was irrelevant. We know praying without actually doing anything doesn't do anything. Praying and then working towards something. Praying to me is like making a list. That's all it does. It may even motivate you. It may even, it's getting your thoughts clear. Thinking there's someone hearing you and changing stuff, that's something else. But again, it's still not harmful. But if you start doing crazy stuff because God's telling you to, that affects me. I've got to stop you there. And if someone goes around saying there is a God and bad people go to hell, fine, doesn't affect me. If they go around saying there is a God and bad people go to hell, I'm going to help God send them to hell by stoning them to death. Whoa, he doesn't need your help. He's all powerful. Chill out. God's got this one. I think it's very important you challenge your own beliefs. I mean that's what science does, really. It doesn't constantly try and prove itself right. It follows the evidence, whatever that is. In fact, it tries to prove itself wrong. It doesn't sulk. When science thinks something and then it discovers it was wrong, it doesn't sulk because it found that out too. It's a question I often get, that people say, well, you're an atheist, you're closed-minded. Well, no, I'm not. That's a strange thing to say. I think the opposite is true. I'm going to always follow the evidence, whatever that is. And they say things like, if someone proved to you God existed, would you believe? Well, of course I would, by definition. In fact, it would be the greatest scientific discovery of all time. Scientists would celebrate. They'd run round. At the moment, we have no evidence for the existence of any God or anything supernatural. Never have. Possibly never will, but who knows? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. When someone puts forward a jar of God, we test it for its godliness, and if we find there's anything godly in it, we'll write it down.
Psychologists confirm that children are born without religious belief. Faith develops later through teaching and environment. A 2017 study in cognitive science showed that religious concepts only take root when children reach an age where authority figures introduce them. This matches the global pattern. Religion overwhelmingly aligns with geography, not truth. Prayer has been tested scientifically, and results show no supernatural effect. The 2006 Harvard-led STEP project, which studied over 1,800 heart surgery patients, found no difference in recovery between those prayed for and those not. In fact, patients who knew they were being prayed for had more complications, likely due to performance anxiety. Religious violence proves Ricky's warning. The Crusades, witch trials, and modern-day jihad all stem from the belief that God commands violence. Even Scripture endorses it. Deuteronomy 13:10 orders believers to stone their own relatives for following other gods. This shows how faith can justify actions no moral society would otherwise accept. By contrast, science is self-correcting. Newton's physics was replaced by Einstein's relativity, and both are now extended by quantum theory. No priest has ever revised Scripture when proven wrong. That's why science remains open, while dogma stays closed.
I get asked questions like, well, what do you think it feels like when you're dead? And I always say, well, what did it feel like for the billions of years before you were born? Like that. And there's also this strange thing that I get from faithful people. Why don't you believe in God? Well, that's a very strange question. Why don't you believe in God? Well, you came up with it. Why would I? As to saying I don't know, well, if you're agnostic about God in all his glory and in all his impossibility, you've got to be the same about Santa. You have got to say, I don't know. I want to say to an agnostic, what's your best guess there? Go on, have a punt. In fact, I don't ask agnostic. I don't say to agnostics, is there a God? I say, do you believe in God? Now, you can't say I don't know to that question, because if you say I don't know, you're an idiot. What you don't know if you believe or not. And I had this discussion with someone on Twitter, actually, and he said, well, that's not true, because I can ask you, am I wearing a red jumper? And you have no way of informing your guess. And that's true. But now ask me if you're wearing a red jumper that created the universe. Now I can have a little guess. No. No, you are not. It's mental. If you throw a load of coins on the floor, no one arrangement is more amazing than another. And it's sort of like they work backwards. Because this is what happened, this is what we think is perfection. So we try and... We can't get around the fact that it's crazy, we've got two eyes. That's exactly where I put them. You know, these are brilliant. This is exactly... If I was making a person, I'd make it just like me. And it's hard not to think there was a will to it, but there wasn't.
Because anyone who follows you on Twitter, and you have a huge following, they'll know that you are a pathological atheist, and therefore the thought of death is very final for you. And for me, as a good Irish Catholic boy, it's the start of something new and glorious. For you, that's it.
And for me, it's the end of something glorious, so I have to pack it all in. But, you know, I'm not depressed about it. I don't want to die any more than anyone else. And I think there's this strange myth that atheists have nothing to live for. It's the opposite. We have nothing to die for.
You have more to live for.
We have everything to live for.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would imagine you have a more focused attention to life because you think it ends when you die.
I think it's precious. I think it's beautiful. I think the world is amazing. I love people, animals, art, every hobby. I can't believe my luck that I'm alive for these 70 or 80 years. Might be less. Wait, you know, I'm not long for this world. My nan used to say that. She lived till 83. I think it was 40 years ago going, I'm not long for this world.
What are you said the things you like. What are the things that really annoy you?
Only two things really make my blood boil, I suppose. I suppose in general, as I get older, injustice. Injustice quietly makes my blood boil. Either personal, social, political, personal. I suppose the two main categories are religious intolerance, this arrogance that you think, you know, arguing over whose God is right sort of gets me down a little bit, you know. And I've got no problem with spirituality. I really haven't. You know, that's another myth. And I always try and make the difference clear between spirituality and religion. One is a very personal feeling, a journey, a hope, or whatever, a need, you know, a joy. And the other is an organized body that uses that for power and corruption in many cases. And I don't have either, but I suppose I think that when it affects me, that's when I have a say in it. And religion affects me. Religion's very real. Spirituality, it doesn't really affect me.
See, I find it as an irony, isn't it, when the people that attack you on Twitter for challenging them about their religious beliefs, they show the total disrespect to you for what is your belief. Your belief is you're an atheist and you just don't happen to believe in a deity or a god. I can respect that completely, whilst choosing myself to have a different belief.
Of course. And
you get very intense on Twitter. I mean, you get into proper battles with people.
Yeah.
Why do you take it so...
But it looks like battles. At home, I'm smiling.
Oh, you always...
I've got what when someone's arguing with me that the Earth is 5,000 years old, yes, I'm smiling. Yeah, of course I'm smiling. You know, the fundamentalist view of the creation of the Earth is rather like an episode of the Flintstones. So I have to laugh at those sort of things.
How does your atheism, which you're passionate about, how does that play with your American audience, given that so many people in America are God-fearing people and probably take exception to it?
Well, they shouldn't. We talked about this last time. Why should they take offence that I don't believe in their God or any other God? And I'd say to them, you know, tell me the reasons why you don't believe in all the other gods, and that's the reason I don't believe in yours. And I've got nothing against people believing in God at all.
Cognitive science shows Ricky is right about death being like before you were born. Neuroscientists explain that consciousness arises from brain activity, and when the brain shuts down, awareness ends. That's why brain damage can erase memory, personality, or the sense of self. If an immaterial soul existed, brain injuries wouldn't change who we are, but they do. On agnosticism, philosophy backs Ricky's view. Bertrand Russell's celestial teapot argument explained that if someone claimed a teapot orbited the sun, the burden of proof isn't on others to disprove it. The same logic applies to God. If there's no evidence, disbelief is the rational stance. The design claim that eyes or the body are perfectly made is undermined by biology. The human eye has a blind spot and is wired backwards, unlike an octopus eye, which is more efficient. The recurrent laryngeal nerve in giraffes loops 15 feet out of the way instead of taking the direct route. These flaws show evolution, not intelligent design. As for religion causing harm, history is filled with it. The 30 Years' War killed over 8 million in Europe. Sectarian violence in Northern Ireland lasted decades, and today, blasphemy laws in countries like Pakistan still sentence people to death. Even Jesus condemned religious hypocrisy. Matthew 23 describes Pharisees using belief for power and control, echoing Ricky's warning about organized religion. So here's the question. If morality, meaning, and awe can be explained by science, history, and human nature, why keep clinging to ancient texts that divide us? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so we can keep unpacking these big conversations together.